17 U.S.C. 107 federal law allows citizens to use copyrighted media for fair use. That is criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody.
Shall forth your praise. Kuma, Yahweh, Weafutsu Yabeka, Wearusumi Feneka Yupeneka. Kuma, Yahweh, Weafutsu Yabeka, Weanusumi Feneka Yupeneka. Kuma, Yahweh, Weafutsu Yabeka. Arise of you, O Yahweh. Let your enemies be scattered, and let those that hate thee flee from before thee. Let all of Yasharah, Yisrael, who love, worship, and praise Yahweh, give him thanks by saying Hallelujah.
So welcome to Into All Truth. May the Ruach HaKodesh lead you into all truth and show you things to come. And may Yah plant the seed of the word in your heart so that it may bring forth fruit unto righteousness. And I pray that you would like, subscribe, and share. And this is just a short video, family. I'm going to be doing a lot of these little short videos, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. See how that works. Shalom. Shalom, family. So I am welcoming you here just to discuss the whole reparations question and one of the financial ways in which it can be dealt with in an obvious way. There's a really good disclosure here in this video about exactly how much an individual's stocks and bonds are traded when they're in prison, because we know that the prison system is the continuation of the slave system for African Americans and people all over the world, actually, of the diaspora. And so I want you to listen to this video. It's very informative, new stuff, and then some more details at the end regarding this prison industrial complex to see how this can be used as a means for returning reparations to the diaspora around the world.
I was 8 years old. I asked the judge, how do I get my dad out of jail? The judge looked at me and said, if you want to get your dad out, you have to become a judge. And so I started studying about the law. And one of the things that I read was the original 13th Amendment of the Constitution, which is now no longer in the Constitution. But the original 13th Amendment says that an attorney or a lawyer cannot hold any public office. It's illegal for attorney work. And basically I explained in my paperwork that everybody in the courtroom has a financial interest in this case, and that it's actually, and why is that? Because they take your bonds in all the case and they trade them on their private stock market. And then you can actually look up the trades of those bonds using what's called a CUSIP report. It stands for the Committee of Uniform Security Identification Procedure.
Whoa, 1 second. You're saying when you go to jail, you're in jail or prison that you're traded like a stock? Is that what you just said or not?
Yes. And they use your social security number to create those bonds. I can prove it too because I have my father's CUSIP report. So I have the report of how much they traded it for. They traded it for $7.42 billion over the 15 years that he was in prison. And so that, and they do that with all the cases. And so I wrote to the judge, I said, sir, I noticed that all this money was created off of capital gain, but no capital gains taxes were filed. So I need to know who's responsible for doing the taxes and how much you made, how much the sheriff made, how much the clerk made, how much the district attorney made. I need to know where all the money went. I need a full forensics accounting. And when I did that, I gave all the paperwork to the clerk and I said, I need you to please give this to the judge so he can read it. And I wrote him a private letter that says, please have your accountant prepare the 1099 OID and all the accounting revolving around these bonds. And she's like, you want to give, she had never had anybody ask her to give anything to the judge. And I was like, yes, if you could please do that. And she said, okay. And she was real sweet. She went to the back, gave the judge the paperwork, and then the clerk opened up the door. And then I said, excuse me, ma'am, are you the clerk of the court? She said, yes, I am. I say, I need you to please take this. And I gave her a letter that said the same thing. Dear clerk, please prepare the accounting for these bonds. And her eyes got real big, and she waddled her fat butt to the back of the courtroom as fast as she could, and gave the judge that stuff. And the judge comes out sweating, going, "Who wrote this letter? I will not allow violence in this courtroom." And I go, "Judge, what violence?" And he says, "You can't represent your father. You're not a licensed attorney." And I go, well, sir, that's strange because I have never heard of an attorney's license in my life. In fact, I even called the licensing commissioner. They offer driver's license, mortgage licenses, real estate licenses, but no license to practice law. I asked them for it and they don't have it. So if you could show me your license to practice law, then I will be able to determine whether I'm a licensed attorney or not. And he got super angry and said nothing. And I said, sir, are we in a court of record today? And he was dead quiet. Meanwhile, all the attorneys are like standing next to me, like, hey, you little kid, I don't think you know what's going on. Like, why don't you come outside here and talk to me? Like, you don't know. Da, 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 da. And I just look at him and I go, look, hey, I don't have a, look, he's the one keeping my dad in jail, not y'all. So I don't really want to talk to you guys. I'm trying to get this settled. And I asked the judge, sir, for the third and final time, is this a court of record? I want it on the record that the judge is not responding. Very simple questions if this is a court of record or not. And when I do that, he clicks the panic button underneath the desk. The bailiffs drag me out of the courthouse and they bring my dad into court and they go, Russ, we'll let you go if you promise not to do it again. And my dad hadn't seen me since I was 10 years old and he didn't even know I was there. So he was just all like, yeah, judge, I promise. I'm like, yeah, I won't do it again. And they release him. And I was like, I knew this was real. And so once that happened, I dedicated my life to figuring out a way to incorporate that knowledge with the spiritual knowledge that I already knew. And so you're definitely correct that it's actually purely financial. They actually consider your body warehouse goods and file liens and store your body in a warehouse, and they monetizing it using the General Service Administration. They file a bid bond, a performance bond, and a payment bond with the General Service Administration, Standard Form 93, 94, and 95. And then they get you to pay commissary, right? And they make it all, it's all money. You have like you have a CID number. They threw me in jail one time for revealing this knowledge. They gave me like a debit card. They called it a debit card and they named me, I was part of the trustee program, right? So like the trustees, and I was doing work and all that stuff. And you had to pay for everything. There's always attorney's fees, court costs, all these things, and they traded on the private system called the Court Registry Investment System. And so, if you want to get out of a court case, just send a affidavit of questionnaire to the judge and to the attorneys, and just ask them under penalty of perjury, do you have a financial interest in this case? Yes or no. If it's yes, you must recuse yourself. If it's no, then you've perjured yourself. The IRS will find out about it, and you will go to prison. That's how you stop court cases.
Man, guys, I mean, come on, man. You can't tell me you're not impressed right now and also appalled. How many of y'all's jaws dropped when you found out that we're getting traded like cattle or whatever you want to call it in jail? And also, we now, man. By the time this live is over, you're gonna have 10 nicknames. We got my cousin Vinny over here.
Everybody is familiar with a lot of this information, but I just want to give you the details because this is a good resource for reparations demands. So, they cannot deny that they are actually trading prisoners like cattle. You can enter a prisoner's case number, at Fidelity Investments and locate that prisoner's bonds and find out where they are being traded. All criminal prosecution is for the purpose of raising revenue for the United States. Okay, and you'll have a better understanding of why people are in jail and why they are in prison or on probation and why they're being charged from everything from jaywalking to murder one. So, for example, a soldier in Afghanistan or Iraq probably carries a $10 million life insurance policy on her because all of these military personnel are an asset to the United States. Okay? Because war is a money-making activity, and they don't want us to talk about the fact that they're making money on death and that they're making money from the incarceration and imprisonment of many otherwise good-hearted people who have not necessarily committed otherwise serious crimes. So the majority of African Americans have not committed a very serious crime. They have a rule called the 144 bondholder. Where do you think this comes from? The rule is that they can't sell private investment securities that are not registered. The rule prohibits them from selling prison bonds. They have to wait 6 months before they can sell a certain quantity of private securities without being registered. And so there are 8 people on the board of directors of Corrections Corporation of America. Joseph E. Russell, the top holder, John Ferguson. Russell owns 64,000 shares of this stock, worth about $70 million. Ferguson owns 34,000 shares, valued at $37 million. Now, the numbers are higher, as we heard. Anyway, Fidelity Management and Service Research is the top stockholder, the top investment firm that is selling the bonds as securities, and they pool them as mortgage-backed securities. Also, when they pool them, they sell them as mutual funds on the stock market. By pooling, we mean the securities of the inmates. So, aren't mutual funds and mortgage-backed securities the foundation of the stock market for the world, the NASDAQ? So what they're doing is they're actually taking the mortgage-backed securities, which are really bid bonds and payment bonds. They then pool them and call them mortgage-backed securities. Call them mortgage-backed securities. All right, so the brokerage houses and insurance companies indemnify the bonds, and these companies are called surety companies. So they basically insure these bonds. And then after the companies indemnify the bonds, which is underwriting them, they do this through an investment banker or banks themselves do this. So this means the banking system is founded on the prison system and the slavery system. Now, all of this is funneled through the Corrections Corporation of America. And so they're basically selling stock in the prison system by selling the prisoners' accounts as securities through the securities exchange. Now, we know when there was a collapse in 2008, it created a collapse in the whole world, so the whole Western world is sustained by this. They privatize the prisoners' accounts and bring all these investors in, and what they're doing is underwriting all these prisoners' accounts as bonds, bondage. I will bring ye into Egypt again in bondage. Then they are put on the market and resold to the public. So every American who's buying stocks and bonds is buying them based on this slave system. In other words, the banks are buying up all the shares and they resell them as investment securities to the public. The public then buys them as mutual funds, or they can buy them as debt instruments and equity instruments. Okay, so they're buying debt instruments. This is the foundation of the global economy, not just the American economy. All right? and they are selling the prisoners' capitals as interest, and then they resell these all to the public because the prisoner did not do the full settlement and closure on the account because they don't even know about it. Okay? They sell the prisoner accounts as a commercial dishonor and sell to the public as a commercial dishonor. So it's commercial bond. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition says a statute is a bond or obligation of record. That's all criminal statutes are, bonds and obligations of record. They are charging prisoners under a bond. The prisoner signs the bond becomes an agreement for payback, and this is done when the prisoner signs final court papers at their hearing. In order to secure the bond, the living soul is placed in prison as a surety to back the bond, which is financed on the investment of the public in the marketplace in terms of sales of stocks and bonds. And so they're taking the capital interest that you should pay, grabbing that from the prisoners and selling it on the open market to bankers and investors to transfer their funds to government, which is covered by the bond on the violation of your straw man of that statute. Once these bonds are underwritten, they are sold to the public as investment securities, debt instruments, or mutual-backed securities. And this is all done through bonds. That's what municipal bonds are. And that means they're funneling and following everything through the prison system. The prison system is privatized. This has been going on since the beginning of slavery. They say they can fund the prison system cheaper this way, but this is how the entire American economy and world is being funded, off the backs of prisoners who are enslaved in prison. So we can see very clearly that these stocks and bonds are traded all over the world and are the foundation of the Babylonian economic system that involves Britain and the 10 kings, all of Europe, Australia, Canada. There's no question about it. So this is just a start. Denmark, Hong Kong, China. I mean, look at how many cities. This is all of the nations who are oppressing the African Americans, except, of course, Russia, Japan, Mexico, because Russia is not. And that's what the scripture says. It says, everyone who is oppressed, my people shall be judged. And this is what keeps Russia out of the game, as you guys know. I mean, they've done their things, but not on the scale of the United Kingdom and Switzerland, Singapore, all of these other nations. So regardless, family, it looks like just for a 15-year sentence, stock was traded for $7.42 billion. Gives you an idea of how to begin to repay this debt. And I'm wondering, is this in Canada too? Let me know. Thank you everyone for your donations and support. It means a lot. And subscribe or simply become a member at intoalltruth.net to get updates on videos and educational materials.
Suba, Aleph, Yasharel, Yahweh. And may the Ruach HaKodesh lead you into all truth and show you things to come.
I'm giving recognition to the Most High Yahuwah. I'm giving thanks and praises for the many blessings I receive from His favor.